Welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy, and today we are joined by Jack Cooper of Modern Nature. They have a new LP, Heat Warps, out on August 29th. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey Andy, how's it going?
Not too bad. So a new album's always exciting. Do you guys have like big plans, release parties, tours? Like what's how are you kicking this one off?
Yeah, we have well, we're doing some in-stores, which I always like doing. Kind of makes you think a little outside the box because you don't want to do like a full band show. So I'm looking forward to that. And we're going to play one the day the record comes out. We're going to play our friend's shop in London, so that'll be fun. And then yeah, we're doing a pretty substantial UK run this time. I think sort of post Brexit, bands from the UK tend to be playing more UK shows.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think part of that is because it's more difficult to go and play in Europe now, but also I think some of it is it's seemingly lots of places have kind of popped up over the last few years in the UK where there seems to be like music scenes where there wasn't, 10 years ago, I suppose. So that's really good. And I always feel like as a musician, it's a two-way street in that you should be supporting those scenes as well and those kind of local communities that are making an effort to bring um, you know, culture or art or however you want to call it to smaller places. So yeah, we're doing that, and then we're coming over to the US at the end of the year.
Oh,
We're
nice.
playing, yeah, we're playing some West Coast shows, and we're just putting the finishing touches to a run of East Coast, Midwest shows that will be like early next year now. So
Yeah.
yeah, lots of stuff, man.
That's awesome. I love that idea of like supporting the local scene, and it's always such it's so difficult. Like our company, we work with a lot of breweries and restaurants
Yeah,
and creative people of all kinds, and it's like if I have a night off, it's like I want to support people, but at the same time, you're kind of like I need to recharge my
sure.
batteries too. Do you kind of
Yeah,
have that same like you want to go see your friends' bands play, but like you're like, I kind of want to take a nap too.
yeah, no, definitely. That's the pressures of capitalism on us mean that we don't have enough headspace to seek these things out. You have to prioritize your health a lot of the time, and that's getting some rest and having some alone time as well. I found like the older I've got, that's kind of increasingly important. Not necessarily rest, but just time for yourself.
It's interesting. Like I spend so much of what I do is like behind the scenes answering emails and
Yeah.
so I find actually not the opposite, but the time that I have to schedule be like, I need to go see other people. The only
Oh,
person
yeah.
I talked to today was like the clerk at a shop. I need to go sit and have a conversation with a real human being. And
Yeah, that's definitely a thing as well because it's easy to get insular, and there's a balance between giving yourself that kind of alone time, but also becoming too insular and isolated from. And yeah, you kind of have to push yourself to do it sometimes, don't you?
yeah, for sure. You mentioned Brexit, and from the American standpoint, like we hear a lot about it. We don't really know what the hell it is, but so like that's really like affecting your touring. Like, how is it more
Yeah,
difficult now?
I mean Brexit was a very um, was there was a huge divide in this country about it, and we haven't really recovered from that in lots of ways. And it's almost the culmination of something that's been happening since the sort of 70s and Thatcherism in this country. And it was a very complicated issue because a lot of people on the far right or the right, the economic right, or however you want to look at it, wanted Brexit to happen because it meant deregulation in this country. Because the EU put a lot of regulations in place in our society in terms of well, everything, regulations that went through life. And a lot of people on the right wanted to get rid of those regulations so they could, make more money, exploit more people, not make sure that we had clean water. These sorts of things that are obviously issues in America as well and stuff. And then there was also people
I
on
don't
the
know what
far.
you're hearing, Jack. We get along perfectly well.
Uh, there was also people on the far left who wanted Brexit because it meant getting rid of this kind of European overlord, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and perhaps working towards making a fairer society. So there was people on both sides of the equation who wanted it to happen, and everyone else in the middle um, realized that the compromise, but also probably the best thing in the short term, was for us to stay in the European Union in terms of trade and etc., freedom of movement, which we had. And so what's happened now, I guess the analogy would be if somewhere like California or Texas or whoever, um, is it called seceding?
Yeah,
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
and they're
But,
always throwing that around.
yeah, would be to drop out of the union. And, somewhere like California or Massachusetts now, that might be an attractive thing to take yourself away from the union. But once you start factoring in things like freedom of movement, not being able to go into other states, tariffs on that state, all these sorts of things that have come into place since Brexit, um, it looks like a massive, massive mistake.
Yeah,
Economically, it's been a massive mistake, and also just for the effect it's had on people's lives. That kind of isolationism. Um, I just don't think is very good. I don't think doesn't enrich a society.
yeah. It's crazy. Because I was like an adult and starting my family back in when 9/11 happened.
Yeah,
And at that point, everyone had an American flag out, and it was like we all came together, and we didn't always agree on everything. And then it's not that much later, 20 some odd years later, and it's like now I see someone even with like an American pin flag, and I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to talk to that person. Like this
yeah,
hyper nationalism, every other country's bad. We're the best country in the world. I've never traveled outside of my state, but I know we're the best country in the world.
yeah,
It's so tiring. And yeah. But in like in the past, like arts like brought us together, like spoke out, and I just don't it is so divided now that it's like one side has the stuff that they like and listen to, and the other side has what they like and listen to. And it's not even as like it doesn't have the anti-war songs of like the 60s and 70s. It
yeah.
doesn't have the Rage Against the Machine. Like I feel like creatively people aren't really pushing back like they used to in the past.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, especially Generation Xers and millennials, our political outlook was informed by the music we listened to and the films we watched, and the things like The Simpsons. I know that sounds kind of flippant, but a lot of a
Yeah.
lot of my kind of view of the world was informed by these things. And you didn't necessarily have to be overt about your politics within the music. You didn't have to be like Chuck D. I mean, Chuck
Yeah.
D. Chuck D is someone that has really inform my politics. But you don't have to be as overt as that. In that, Radiohead, I guess, were kind of a political band, but there was a subtlety to it. They would talk about the sort of dangers of capitalism and etc. etc. But it wasn't necessarily forcing it down people's throats and stuff. And I think that has kind of fallen by the wayside to an extent within music and within art. You do see it sort of subtly here and there, but I think because it's got so hard to do these things, to make art and to make films and things like that, and economically as well, it's so difficult now to do these things,
Mm-hmm.
that to be forthright with your opinion and to be forthright about your politics, it takes a certain amount of resolve to do that nowadays. And it's just not in everyone when they have to prioritize making money, making rent and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I'm a big fan of, British TV, and I know there's like
Yeah.
the stupid American stereotype, but then you see people on the far right, like at rallies, blaring Rage Against the Machine, and you're
Yeah.
like, you missed the point entirely, man. Like, and that's one of the other things. Like, if you work that hard to make something so outspoken and trying to get your point across, it's really clear. It's not like Rage Against the Machine is very subtle about their message, but then people don't get it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so confusing, isn't it? Because I mean, these people that, on the right that would play a thing like, Rage Against the Machine or whatever, they see themselves as the rebels.
Right.
They
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
themselves, and the people on the left also see themselves. But I think one is right and the other is wrong. But it's just such a confusing dynamic we have within like the political spectrum that we all kind of used to believe in.
Yeah.
There was right and there was left, and it's very ambiguous.
Yeah. It's very frustrating, and 8 years ago I was very outspoken, and now I'm just like I feel like I'm wasting my time. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's you can I mean, Trump even said I could shoot someone in the middle of the street and no one would care. And now, 12 years later or whatever, you're like, yeah, I think you're right. I think you could. And
yeah. No, completely. I mean, we're seeing a genocide on our TVs every day, and it's being ignored.
yeah,
It's being completely ignored. And I don't think you have to compare it to any other genocides in the past, but that's what it is. And um, it's unimaginable for what's happening there to have been covered in history in the same way.
yeah,
It's bonkers.
yeah. And it's our own fault. We've cut spending to education and prioritize, sporting teams over education and
Yeah,
arts and things
yeah,
that enlighten you. And now we're kind of reaping the decades upon decades of not even villainizing, just like shaming people for being smart.
yeah,
you know
yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
wow, how did I make this such a bummer?
I know. I
Sorry,
know.
man.
And I just went straight in with you as well. I sense like I sense like to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So, welcome listeners to our therapy session.
Yeah, here we go.
But no, I think let's roll it back some to you were saying that you're going to be playing in some shops and stuff. I think that's so cool. Um, I loved going to, into Boston and Salem and going to these old record shops and buying used CDs and all that stuff. It's harder and harder to come by those around here anyways. Is that still alive and well in London, or?
Yeah, I mean, we live a little outside London, but yeah, I mean that's still our nearest big city, and yeah, there are a lot of record shops in London now, and a lot of really good specialist ones as well. But it's a city that can absorb that. But I've sort of seen it a lot in the UK, like little pockets of things happening, a record store opening, and people trying to kind of develop a community around music and people who are interested in music. So yeah, it definitely still happens. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, there's shops that I maybe visited in Boston, 10 years ago that definitely aren't there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
we have a small one that just opened in Plymouth, and like small, I think you could extend your arms and touch both walls. Like it's just this
yeah,
long, narrow store. Um, and again, it's like one of those, like I literally have to make a point to be like I need to get in there and support that guy to keep it going. You know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's the ease of just popping onto you know, Amazon or eBay and just being like, oh, look, that record that I really wanted, I have it. And it's that instant
yeah.
gratification.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, I feel like there is a response. We have a responsibility to support these things because you're not necessarily just supporting someone's business or an enterprise. You're supporting someone trying to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, just trying to stir something because there's certainly easier things that you can do than opening a record shop nowadays. And
Just even moving them in, they're heavy as hell.
yeah, 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 they really are. They really are. So I think so many backs have been busted over the years. People moving records, from flat apartment to apartment.
Yeah. Back in the day, I was more of a comic book collector than a record collector. And I think for the first three moves of my life, every time you moved, the friends were like, all right, this is the one time I've helped you move. I'm not moving 30 boxes of comic books.
Yeah,
It's having collections, or you have to like plan your moves well. So
yeah, it's weird. Collections are weird, aren't they?
yeah, and it's and that's collectors drive those small stores, the small record stores, the small comic book shops, and they get harder and harder to find because I think what the enjoyable part of collecting is going to the shop time and time again, searching through the bins and finding that one, either that piece of gold that is mistakenly priced super cheap, or that one super random thing that no one else knows about but you seem to love.
Yeah,
That hunt, and that's all gone now. It's just too easy to just hop on online and be like, oh, that really hard to find comic I found.
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I think it's something people, maybe men, people of our, I'll say people of our generation, are sort of very preoccupied with. I think, um, yeah,
Yeah. So I take it you have a record collection.
yeah, I do.
So it's been one of those things that I know myself, and I've been very hesitant to like buy records because I'm like, I know once I start buying them, I'll buy them all the time.
Yeah.
And I think I have four right now, and I'm like, oh, here we go. This is
Oh, that could be it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I've actually over the last few months I've been listening to records a lot more. And I think I just got really tired of streaming services, and um, the way that I was listening to music felt very contrary to how I'd listened to music when I was growing up, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that maybe we're the last generation of people to experience music in that way, where I was thinking back, I was listening to the Love album Forever Changes a couple of days ago, and that was one of the first CDs that I ever had, and I must have listened to that CD every night for 4 or 5 months when I got it. You know, I knew everything about it. I could sing every lyric, I could sing every guitar part and things, and the relationship you have with an album, when you get to know it like that, is so profound compared to listening to something once or twice on Spotify, or even worse, just listening to single tracks and stuff. And I think like our generation is probably the last en masse to like experience music like that, where it's not necessarily entertainment and it's not something that you take lightly. It's something that you absorb.
Yeah.
I guess it's the same with films as well. I used to go to the movies maybe once a month, and I had like a bunch of VHSs that I would watch over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you get to know these things in a similar depth to the person who's created it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. I
Because
texted I usually have the TV on in the office just as like background noise. And so I put on Back to the Future yesterday. I'm like, oh, I won't really pay attention and I know it by heart.
yeah,
And I still noticed something new, to the
oh
point where I
yeah,
texted a friend and I'm like, hey man, did you notice before he time travels, Marty has no concept of time? Like he's late to school.
oh yeah,
Um, he's out um, weeping over the car being totaled, and he forgets to call his girlfriend at a certain time. Doc wakes him up in the middle of the night, and he's like, "Oh, did you fall asleep?" He's like, "Nope, nope, I'm awake. I'll be there." And then
yeah.
when he's filming, Doc is like, we're at the Twin Pines Malls, and it's like one something in the morning, and Marty looks at his watch and shakes it like it doesn't work. And it's just like, oh my god, like he is out of time completely through the first 20 minutes of that movie. And it's just, I've
Yeah, that's
seen it
amazing.
thousands of times and never noticed that before. And it's
Yeah,
so
that's
subtle.
amazing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's so many things like that I watched when I was that age that I feel like I know so well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Back to the Future. I remember I was in a before Modern Nature. I was in a band called Ultimate Painting, and we were on tour. We were on tour on the West Coast, and it was nighttime. We were driving from somewhere else, maybe getting a bounce on the next day or something. And we're driving. I was like, "Oh my god, that's the parking lot from Back to the Future."
Oh, really? That's so cool.
Just the way it was lit
Yeah.
at that time of night, I was like, "That's it."
Yeah.
Totally. And we were like, "Oh no, it can't be." It's just like, and it was. We literally just saw it and knew it was that.
That's super funny. Yeah. It's so weird. Like when and then like you see something like that and then you see it in real life and you're like, oh, it's different or it's just shot from a weird angle.
Yeah.
It's what goes into film is amazing. But to get back to your original point, I think we are, especially like Americans, like we're like a fast food nation, and like that's kind of like Spotify. You toss it on in the car because you don't have
Yeah.
time to deal with something, but like putting on an album is more like fine dining, where like you have to like get your record player and put it on the record player. You're gonna have to flip it halfway through, and it's there's album art. I miss album art so much,
Yeah,
and like a really clever you know record cover. Like still to this day, Jethro Tull albums I
yeah.
love because they were so tactile and creative, and it's just a lost. It's something that's just gone by the wayside.
Yeah, and it's funny because musicians and artists still put a lot of thought and a lot of love into that. That aspect of making an album.
Mm-hmm.
It's very up there in the important aspects of an album. But I just don't think that it's sort of appreciated or consumed in the same way, is it?
No, no, not at all. And I
But
mean,
it used to be the same with like movie posters and
I was just
stuff.
gonna say, I was just gonna go there with uh Drew Struzan is like one of the most famous ones. He did like the Goonies poster. He did the
Oh yeah,
poster for the Thing. Just beautifully painted posters, and now
yeah.
every movie poster's just the photo of whoever's starring in it.
The stars,
Yeah,
yeah. I know, it's bonkers. When you think of something like, all the Spielberg, like obviously Jaws is an insanely good movie poster,
Oh
but
yeah.
then like Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Yep.
there's no stars on the I bet I guess it wasn't really a star-led movie, but all of those, Jurassic Park,
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And that, yeah, you're right. It's totally fallen by the wayside.
And even like the Indiana Jones. I mean, the star was on the poster, but the posters were, paint. They were works of art. They just
Yeah.
weren't.
So intricate and rich as well.
Yeah. So it's sad. And now they're like, hey, we have a cool popcorn bucket.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm assuming that Heat Warps is coming out on vinyl. Then we've talked so much about records.
Yeah.
Do,
Yeah.
do you put? I mean, I'm assuming I can tell that you thought a lot about it, but um, like where did the album art come from? Is it a friend? Is someone in the band do the album art? Like how did you land on the album art to match the music?
Yeah, this one. So our album covers previously have kind of evolved from a very intricate drawing to, and then by the time the last album, No Fixed Point in Space, it was very sort of sparse, and they've kind of taken a journey with the music in lots of ways. But it felt like with this album that it was very much like a line in the sand, like a little shift in what the band was, or talking in like modern movie terms, like a kind of a little bit of a reboot in terms of what the band was. And so it felt like it needed to tie in with the previous ones, but it needed to be something new. So Tara Akon, who did a lot of the illustration on the last album and stuff, and all our albums so far, has done lots of little drawings, but they're behind us, and the emphasis is on the band,
Yeah.
because it feels a lot more like a sort of band record, and having the band on the cover is kind of a classic thing, and you don't really see it quite as much anymore.
No, I suppose you don't. I feel like I'm gonna blame Tool for that.
Oh yeah.
They were the ones who were kind of like, there's no photos of us, and we're not
Oh,
gonna be
exactly.
in our videos. We're not gonna be on our album covers. That was kind of like
Makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense. It's good to blame them for something, I suppose.
Yeah, there's got to be blame for. I had this whole conversation with a friend of mine just the other night, and there's a local business that's struggling, and she was just trying to like, I guess, kind of like lay blame and be like, well, the business owner, people who run it, it's their fault. Blah. I'm like, you should. It's not always fault. Like, why is it? Just the situations change. Times are hard.
Yeah.
It's. it's interesting to, I know I just did it to Tool, but I was kind of being, silly, but it's, it's times are hard, and to do something in late stage capitalism, it's so hard to kind of like break through the
Yeah,
massive amounts of advertising to be like, hey, I'm doing my own thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To take a shot on something is increasingly rare. But yeah, you do see it though. You
Yeah.
know, I think there are a lot. I think there are lots of causes for optimism, but sometimes it's just hard to see them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I assume people still, I don't feel like you see it as much. Do people still use Kickstarter? Is that still like,
No, I don't think so. I
yeah.
think it was like one of those things that kind of got abused a bit, didn't it?
Yeah. I feel like people were kickstarting a lot of things that never happened. And then people
Yeah.
were like, I never got my money back.
Yeah, they were kickstarting too much. Like, and all I got was this tote bag.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, then you'd have like, like MGM want to kickstart a movie, and you're like, what?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, so, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, it's so hard to kind of, like back in the 70s and 80s, the punk scene was so subversive and counterculture that I feel like anytime anything like that kind of catches on, it never lasts long, because if there's money to be made, then the big companies like, we're punk too, or
oh yeah,
it's they just buy up the little companies, and it's hard to rage against the machine when the machine just buys you out.
yeah. It is. It really is. And yeah, I don't know whether you've ever. I I know what you mean about the counterculture and like and punk. And it's very easy to feel like it doesn't exist anymore. And I think you see pockets of it within, you know, certain groups who are pushing forward with protest and like Extinction Rebellion or like Palestine Action over here and things like that. And it's just very, very hard because these things are sort of oppressed so quick. And there was, I think, the last big thing, um, you know, however long it is ago, was like the Occupy movement. That seemed
Oh
like it
yeah.
was such a well organized, well thought out movement. Um, and I can't really think of anything since then that's sort of had the same amount of uh, motivation, but also goodwill towards as
Yeah.
well. Because I think Extinction Rebellion, I think a lot of the things that they were doing, like, just really pissed people off as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't agree. I think that what they were doing is needed, but also way more. But I think the Occupy movement was very exciting for a short time, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of hung around longer than I would have expected it to.
Yeah.
And I actually got to interview, do you know Vermin Supreme?
No, I think I've heard the name. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so funny, like how he kind of came into my realm of knowledge. So he was a big part of the Occupy thing. He's kind of a satirical political candidate here in the States. He wears like a rubber boot on his head. He wears
Right.
like a bunch of different ties all at once.
Yeah.
He runs on campaigns of like, everybody in the country gets a free pony. He's going to go back in time and kill baby Hitler.
Yeah.
It's very satirical. But the first time I ever saw him was at a comic book convention in Boston. And anime is so big, and I'm not an anime fan, but like I used to play this friend game with my friends called "Is that costume or clothes?" And he walked by, and I'm like, "Costume or clothes?" And they're like, "We have no idea." So I went up to him like, "Hey man, who are you supposed to be?" And he's like, "I'm not supposed to be anybody." And I'm like, "Okay, right on." And then I saw him like 2 years later running for president, and I'm like,
Oh wow.
"Oh my god, I met that guy!" And I got lucky enough to interview him like in the height of COVID, um, where he became so well known. I think it was the Green Party picked him up as an actual candidate,
Oh
and
wow.
he was a really interesting conversation because like he started off with his free pony for everybody, blah blah blah, but then was like, yeah, now that I'm a legitimate candidate, like I have to be able to have like real speaking points on real issues, and
Yeah.
yeah, so he's one of those things that is very counterculture, but somehow is still hanging around. So
Yeah, we have people like that occasionally over here, you know,
you guys had Lord Buckethead, right?
yeah, Lord Buckethead, he was cool. The one when I was growing up was Screaming Lord Such. He was like very consistently within the sort of political discourse, and he came very much from like the '60s counterculture, you
Yeah,
know. Um, but yeah, you don't see it. Lord Buckethead seemed to get a bit of traction though.
yeah. He was one of those. I saw him. I'm like, wow, why why is England's elections way more interesting than ours? And then
Yeah,
ours got interesting. I'm like, can ours be boring again?
yeah.
I'd much rather be boring. Um, yeah. So um, this has flown by, man. Like, where can everyone go to get Heat Warps on August 29th?
Well, yeah, your digital streaming platforms,
The
as
ones that we
they,
shit on earlier.
yeah, um, you know, Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp. Bandcamp's probably the best one, you know, as far as uh, payment to labels and artists. But then in record shops, you know, um, just trying to think where there is in where it would be stocked in Boston. I used to love that record shop in, I think in Boston, or maybe it was in Cambridge, called Weirdo Records.
Oh, that one I don't know. It's been a long time since I've gone to Cambridge. I used to go to Looney Tunes, which I don't think is there anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and there was one up in Salem, the Record
Oh, yeah.
Exchange. The Record Exchange, I think, in Salem was pretty sweet. I don't know if that's there either.
Right. I've been to Salem.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. Really fun couple of days there, actually.
nice. Are you coming? You said you might be hitting the East Coast. Are you coming this way on that tour, or do you know yet?
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I've played the place I played the most in Boston, Cambridge is the Middle East, but I don't think that's there anymore, right?
Yeah, that God, that was so sad. Middle East was great. I think
Yeah,
there's someone trying to like reopen it, so I think it's kind of like in a weird um
limbo.
yeah. So I don't remember. I remember hearing a lot about it, and then I stopped hearing about it. Um, but yeah, the Middle East was legendary.
Yeah, must have played there like 4 or 5 times. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be back there. Um, yeah, I like being in New England just generally. I especially you know, I've been there a few times in the fall and it's so beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's perfect time. Yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
So,
You know, and I've got like quite a few friends around there, so you know, it's been great exploring around there over the years.
nice. Is there a website where people can go to find out where you are going to be playing?
Yeah, modernnature.band and all the
Underneath.
dates are on there. Yeah, we should have those East Coast shows booked up pretty soon, but
Nice. I'll
yeah.
have to keep my eyes open, see if you're playing anywhere
Yeah,
nearby.
man. Just give me a shout and I'll make sure you get in.
Oh, thanks, man. That's sweet.
Yeah,
I like
cool.
being on the list. Makes me feel
Yeah,
fancy.
I know.
Um,
It always does.
um, yeah, it's cool. And actually, if you guys are looking, there's a space south of Boston that I love it because it grew so organically. It's called Soundcheck Studios,
Okay.
and it was a band rehearsal space. And then the owners are like, "Oh, it'd be cool, like if on Friday night we like had one of the bands perform in like this little lobby area that
Yeah.
fit, I don't know, 50, 60 people, and so the bands would
Right.
kind of like do their thing,
Oh, it's always the best.
and then it became so popular that they put on a full-on nightclub space attached to it,
Yeah.
and now it can fit several hundred people. It's got a full stage and lighting. It's a phenomenal place to see a show. So yeah,
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
yeah.
What's that called?
Soundcheck Studios.
Okay.
It's in
Soundtrack.
Pembroke.
Pembroke. Okay.
Yeah, and it's right
I
by
got
the
it.
highway, so it's really easy to kind of get to. So
Okay. Always good.
awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And
Yeah. Yeah,
please,
Andy. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
yeah, sure. And please, if ever you guys, I know the new album's just coming out, but feel free to reach out in the future when you got something else. And love to have
I
you back.
will. Yeah,
Awesome.
I will. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, man. And listeners, we will catch you guys again next Monday, and we'll talk to you then. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.